Today, I'll be talking with Jean-Christophe Pellegrini. Jean-Christophe is the Operational Performance Director for the Delpharm Group, a contract development manufacturing organization, CDMO. Join me as we discuss the challenges of putting in place CI in different cultures across the globe, at sites where management does not have a great knowledge and experience of continuous improvement, and how Jean-Christophe acts to overcome these challenges. Jean-Christophe, welcome to Leaders in CI podcast.
Okay, thank you for your invitation, Maureen, for this postcard. And just a short presentation about me, Jean-Christophe Pellegrini. I joined Delpharm in 2018, and since this date, I am in charge of continuous improvement. Concerning my graduation, after graduation as an engineer, I had the opportunity from the beginning of my career to work in Switzerland. And for me, it is the key of my career because it is allowed me to work internationally and to discover different countries and different culture. And for me, it is important in terms of continuous improvement. During my career, I have had different experiences in different industries, plastic molding, injection, electronics, appliances, automotive, and I've had different positions in production, quality, project, continuous improvement, sure, and plant management. And I discovered continuous improvement in 1995 by Valeo. And I've always wanted to apply the 12 Kaizen principle. And you can see in my red hand, the plastic card. It is not a credit card, but for me, it is the key of the continuous improvement.
And 30 years old?
Sorry?
Is it still from Valeo?
No, because I reproduce, it comes from Toyota. And Valeo, for example, use only 10 principles, but the base of Toyota is 12 principles. Yes. And when I start with a new company, every time the first step is I give this card with the logo, with the company logo. You can see at the right of the card, you have a Delpharm company logo. And for me, it is the base because, today we will discuss about book and so on, but it is the base of continuous improvement.
Excellent. Okay, so thank you for that introduction. Welcome to Leaders in CI podcast. Could you tell us about your role at Delpharm? What's your day-to-day look like?
My role is to have defined the DES resulting from existing best practices and day after day to implement in our 18 factories. What's exciting about Delpharm is that each site had a system that more or less existed, and that we need to standardize everything. And it is not so easy. Maybe later I can explain the difficulties to have different systems and with different plans.
Yes, that's always going to be a challenge to roll out a global standard, isn't it?
Yes, right.
Yes. Okay. So I imagine you do a lot of talking.
Yes, sure.
Yes, indeed. Okay. So let's move on to CI at Delpharm. What would you say, excuse me, is Delpharm's unique challenge when it comes to CI, and how does your long track record help you address this challenge?
It is a good question because it is not only the challenge is not unique. There are several challenges. Okay. First of all, we had to convince the top management, and it is a base, and then convince the management committees of the various factories. Because we have different factories worldwide, and the mentality is completely different. I will explain later.
Okay.
Setup relays, setup relays the DES will be and explain what is the continuous improvement. Training in the basic of shop floor management with visual and indicators.
Yes.
Carry out pilot project on the tool we wanted to put in place, showing sites that had already experiences helped me to adapt the tool by demonstrating that they helped people in the shop floor to solve their daily problems. And it is important because it's important to demonstrate you will put in place tools, but why you will put in place the tools? Because not it is maybe standard come from the holding. It is important because the tools help the plant. And it is the key of my principle is put in place the tools, but explain before why you will put in place. And after maybe 1 month, 2 months, you give to the plant good results.
Right, right. Okay. And you mentioned DOS, right? So at Delpharm, you made the conscious decision to stay away from Toyota production system, Delpharm production system, TPM, or anything like that. And instead, you want to focus on the Delpharm excellence system. What are your reasons behind this decision?
Yes, my decision is coming from the automotive industry and training in Toyota production system. It would have been a serious mistake to copy-paste the system to a CDMO, contract development manufacturing organization. It is Delpharm, and for me it is a big mistake to put in place a copy-paste because we are not Japanese, we are French, and we are not automotive company that have its own quality constraints, because the constraint, compare automotive industry, we have not customer, we have patient, because it is pharmaceutical company, and the best way is to give medicine to the patient, not to the customer, and it's completely different. And we need a system to encompass the entire company. This made it possible to bring together at the different departments of the company and to break down silo, because every time we have a silo, we have a quality, supply chain, production, human resources, and so on. And it is important together. We have only one system. We have, for example, we use the same tools. For example, solving problem, we can use it not only in production, but maybe in HR, maybe in finance, maybe in maintenance. And it's important to take the whole department and the department work together. And it is the key of the success to put in place excellent system, not a production system. Because every time a lot of guys thinks, continuous improvement, it is only production. It is not only production. For example, 5S, we can use 5S for all departments, and it is important. It is important.
Okay. So the excellence system is an expression of putting CI in place from an end-to-end perspective from the very beginning.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Which is quite impressive because
as I explained, the unique challenge is to protect our patients by providing them with that medication.
Yes.
Our line must therefore be efficient and deliver our orders. It is essential that all departments work together, but it is not so easy because you kill you must kill the silo. And you know, worldwide, we have some silo because maintenance and production, supply chain and production, and it is a key of the success to put in place an excellent system, but not so easy.
Not so easy. I completely agree. And many companies struggle. And I think, you know, maybe one of the reasons why they struggle is when they start in production and then try to expand it, it's already set in the perception as production. So I think it's really smart to approach it from an end-to-end point of view. You were saying earlier you are a French company, but obviously you operate on a global scale, right? So many countries, many cultures. So where do you find it easiest to build a culture of continuous improvement? Because I'm sure there are differences.
Yes, you know, we discussed before about and in Zurich when I was together a meeting, and for me this question is very interesting because it is my point of view. It is easier to set up a culture of continuous improvement where the industry experience is weaker and where respect or standard and management is part of the culture. And in this case, the most complicated country is France, where by definition, we will always do better than the proposed standard. It is, okay, the mentality, the French mentality. And we are deploying much faster. For example, in North America, we have 2 sites in Canada and maybe in Asia, because before, during my career, I was 3 years in China and maybe, or in Brazil. It is because, okay, you know, and I come back on my Kaizen principle is put in place the standard and improve the standard. And the difficulties in France, we don't put the standard, okay, we will improve before to put in place the standard. And it is
we just look at it, we say, we can do better.
Yes.
But everybody thinks that, so everybody does better and everybody does different.
Yes, sure.
Yes. Okay, so that's going to be a big challenge to overcome. What would be mistakes that you shouldn't make then as you're deploying CI, in your opinion?
Okay, is my opinion. The 3 mistakes I see are: don't try to reproduce what you have already put in place, but adapt it. For example, I come from automotive, and it is maybe a mistake. My point of view is to put in place the same principle, you put in place the same tools. It is important to adapt and to adapt the tools, to adapt the speed, to put in place this continuous improvement with your company. Second thing is imposing without explaining the standard you want to put in place. It is very important to explain before to put in place. It is not so easy because you are, for example, my point of view, I am completely convinced about continuous improvement, but you discuss a lot of time with some guys, they are not convinced because continuous improvement is in production. It is a guy, some workshop and so on. He is not convinced continuous improvement is a tools and the company need to have and to deploy the tools. And thinking that the paradigm can be easily forgotten. It is, okay, maybe so difficult to change the mindset of the guys.
Yes, it is indeed. You should never underestimate paradigms because, I mean, after all, we all have paradigms. We need them. It's just when they get to be blocking that they become a problem and you want to shift them, right? But they are deeply ingrained in us.
Yes.
Yes. So then really one of the things you said is don't copy paste, but really adapt and make it fit for purpose. Earlier, you were also saying that one of your great challenges is to standardize across the whole group of Delpharm companies. So how do you balance this global standard and then the cultural differences of the sites? How does that affect your power to execute, and how do you address cultural differences? What do you need for this?
The key of the difficulties, as I explained. Indeed, there are good practices everywhere, and we must know how to transversalize them. We therefore work with a network of DES, and it is important to have a DES network. DES network is an expert at the SLT level. It is mandatory by Delpharm at each site in order to define the best standard practical during on-site meetings. A topic is discussed and validated by the group. For me, it's important. This allows the leader to explain to his executive committees what is going to put in place. I have imposed very few standards because it is important. We have not a big company as Stellantis, for example, or maybe Volkswagen, and it is important at the group level, which leave a greater opportunities to the leader to express themselves. In order to check the application, I regularly visit the site, and we have a roadmap that includes most of your standards. Just to summarize, small standard, because we have, for example, in terms of management, we have a standard, very short standard. We have, for example, for 5S, we don't have a standard because every guy knows very well 5S. And in Delpharm, we use 6S because I put safety inside 5S because value stream mapping, okay, we don't have a specific report of value stream mapping or material information flow analysis, but because I suppose the DES manager knows very well the VSM, and not a lot of standards, but only 3 or 4 standards mandatory. The rest is okay, completely open. And if we will define a new standard, we have a team, we have a DES team, I organize a small workshop, and together we create a new standard for Delpharm, adapted to a pharmaceutical company.
Yes, I see. The local DES expert or the DES manager reporting to the site manager would be a local guy or girl then in the same culture to make sure that there's a really good fit?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is the same cultures. Because, for example, in Poland, the DS manager is a Polish guy, or maybe in Italy is a Italian guy, and so on. And in France, it is a French guy. But what is important, it is, as explained, we have a meeting. We have 2 or 3 meetings per year during 2 days or maybe 3 days. And half a day or maybe 1 day, I organize a workshop. For example, I will put in place standardized work. And what is standardized work come from, for example, Toyota. Okay, I explain on the shop floor, and we organize a small workshop. And after this workshop, we have some files, we have some definition about standardized work. And the next step is, okay, guys, put in place in your plant the standards.
Yes, I can see how that works, because that's also very much the core of how we work. We are also present on a global scale, so that we are always in tune and aligned with the local culture and the local language, but we have one global methodology that we keep feeding with best practices and feeding with what works in a local culture and what doesn't work in a local culture. So I just mentioned best practices. Best practices for us is a very important instrument to accelerate. And you have 18 sites, so you probably have a large opportunity for best practices. And I assume your team plays an important role in leveraging those best practices. Do your sites share a lot and act on best practices?
When I started, just to come back on Delpharm, when I started by Delpharm, Delpharm have only 10 sites, only 10 French sites. And we grow, during the next 5, 6 years. And today Delpharm have 18 sites and 2 in North America, in Canada, and 2 in Netherlands, 2 in Italy, and 1 in Poland. And ground the change a lot, because in the past it is only French site, small site, and today we have a big site with some experiences, because this site come from big pharma. Big pharma as a buyer and so on, and this company have continuous improvement programs. Not compare Delpharm. Delpharm in 2019, we don't have production management. We don't have excellent system. We have maybe nothing. We produce medicine, and the difficulties today is, okay, don't copy paste, for example, Bayer system or maybe Sanofi system. Just take some tools and to adapt to CDMO company. But continuous improvement worldwide, we use the same tools. Is VSM, is 5S, is PDCA, and so on. But it is not so complicated to adapt for the CDMO these tools, but the base is the same.
Given all of these challenges, and you have a long track record, 1995 Valeo, actually, I also learned formal CI in 1995 at GE, so we share some of the same history. To be effective at Delpharm and to achieve results, how have you had to reinvent yourself or learn new skills?
Yes, it is a good question, because normally in France, when you come from for example to automotive product, it is impossible to have a job in automotive product. In pharmaceutical, the same thing. And for me, it is not the right way. I will explain. Indeed, I didn't know the field of pharmacy, but it is precisely a strength for me, asking sometimes silly questions in order to capture opportunities, because a lot of time I am not the expert on why you have this control, why you put in place this one, and okay, a lot of time, it is mandatory, it is a GMP. Okay, it is GMP, explain me why we put in place, and I'm sure I had also the support of the top management and GMP training, because it is mandatory. And I have visited all the plan, 10, when I joined the group in 2019. The key is understanding the issue and needs of the moment allowed me to write the booklet of the Delpharm Excellence System. The first thing is, okay, you understand what is the pharmaceutical businesses, what is the organization, and maybe you write a small booklet. We have a small booklet, maybe with 20 pages. It is not a book, but just to summarize what is the excellence system and to explain what is the excellence system. But it is a very good question, because a lot of time you come from not automotive, it's impossible to work in automotive industry. You not come from pharmaceutical industry. It is so difficult to work in pharmaceutical industry. But for me, it is an opportunity. It is a good opportunity because you ask a lot of questions because you are not an expert about pharmaceutical, except quality, because quality, you must be a pharmacist. It is mandatory.
Okay, I can understand that. But I can also understand from what you're saying is because you come from outside and you have different paradigm, you will ask different questions because you ask the questions they don't ask anymore because it's so part of their life that they don't even think about those questions anymore. And you coming from outside, you have to ask many questions, right? And that creates the opportunity. That creates the opportunity. Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's move on to what you said earlier. So when we were talking about the challenges, you said the first one is to convince the CEO, right? And then the management committees of the factories. So in the end, what is more important, the management commitment in the factories or the CEO commitment? Or is there a difference?
It is a good question, Maureen. My point of view is both are important, but it starts with the conviction of the CEO. Okay. I have, when I started by Delpharm, my first question, because I come from automotive and I have had some disappointment. And my first question before to join Delpharm, I have the support of the CEO. It is mandatory. If I have every time the support of the CEO, it's so easy to put in place, but so easy, maybe not so easy, but maybe you can report to the CEO and to explain why the site is in advance, why the site, we have some difficulties, we have block point and so on. And for me, it is the base is the CEO.
Okay.
And concerning the top management, it's important, my point of view, at the top level, the plant manager is convinced. I have some example. If the plant manager is not convinced, it's so difficult to put in place continuous improvement. Sure.
Yes. I can imagine that would be so. So what is a pragmatic way for you as a CI leader to engage and influence the CEO? Because you're not a line manager, you're the CI director. How do you convince him? What do you do?
He's a good question. For convince my CEO, I organize some benchmark because, my network, I have a lot of network worldwide. And when I will put in place tools, for example, 5S or maybe management control, daily management, and so on, I choose the best. Is automotive, is agroalimentaire, is maybe a different company, electronics, and so on. And I organize some benchmark. And and with my CEO, we have a half a day, 1 day. We discuss with the operator, not only with the manager or maybe the director, and to explain what is the added value, why we put in place, why the difficulties, and so on. And if my CEO is convinced, we can go to put in place these tools and so on. And during for example, each year, I organize maybe 1 or 2 benchmark because, for example, I will put in place in the supply chain AGV. For example, I will suppress trucks, forklift, and so on, and we will put in place another solution. For example, we have visited Bosch because Bosch have some elements and to explain what is the system and why we put in place, what is the cost, what is the added value, why is the payback, and so on. And for me, is not to use a lot of time PowerPoint, but to use the shop floor.
Yes, but also what I hear you saying is you pick the sites that you will visit in line with the next step that you want to make.
Exactly.
Right. So it's very purposeful, it's very targeted. And do you just bring the CEO, or how do you engage the other management teams, so the management committees? Do you also take them on benchmark visits?
Yes, not only the CEO, sure, but the top management.
Whole team.
Maybe supply chain and maybe human resources, clustered, because we have divided in cluster, different in different country, and maybe with 5 or 6 top management, he organize this visit, not only the CEO.
So I understand. So that there's also, you build a reference that you can come back to in the leadership team and to discuss. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Jean-Christophe. Now, we don't do CI for CI. In the end, it's all about business results, right? Business performance. So, I'd like to just elaborate on that a little bit. I know, where you shared before that at Delpharm, you measure CI impact both in hard and in soft savings. So hard savings are tied to the P&L. Where do soft savings come into play? Could you maybe explain that a little bit?
Yes. The question is, how do you assure CI is delivering sustainable business impact? Yes, and
Yes.
the same thing when I am working in China, North America, speak about hard saving and soft saving is a current discussion. But in France, because it is not a current discussion, because we have continuous improvement. I was in automotive, in different automotive industry, and a lot of time we define a workshop, and I am happy. We improve OE. We have a good organization. We have one worker -1 or -2, but nobody speak about money. And for me, it is important to speak money. And by Delpharm, in each budget review, the DS manager is in charge of collecting all the company savings, and every month there is a follow-up, the implementation. This demonstrates that continuous improvement is not a cost, but a gain for the company. And it is important because we have a team, maybe for each plant, we have maybe 2 or 3 continuous improvement guys. And it is important, it is a cost. It is not a cost, but maybe it is a gain. The salary is peanuts compared to the gain.
Yes.
And if I take a lot of example, for example, in automotive, this plant have some difficulties, and the first things is to kill the DES because it is not added value. It is completely, it is not right. It is important. Okay, you have difficulties. It is important to push and to put in place the continuous improvement tools. And it is important to have hard saving, as you explained, is directly an impact on P&L, but soft saving, because soft saving is maybe the future hard saving. It is opportunities in the future.
Right. So you're by tracking both hard savings, you can demonstrate your immediate contribution of DES to the company results, and tracking soft savings, you're also anticipating for the future for sustainability. Okay.
Yes.
Now, you told me that, if you look at building the competences, which is always, of course, quite a task, especially in a global company, many employees, you also use external support to build these competencies, right? To realize that are necessary to realize the impact and accelerate payback. So how does outside third-party competencies affect the sustainability How do you transfer ownership so that, for instance, supervisors drive that sustainability and it doesn't disappear when the outside people disappear?
Yes, this question is very a good question because it is my point of view. It is the most difficult implementation for continuous improvement because I think that whatever the group, it is necessary to rely on external expertise while preserving the DNA of the group. And it is important to identify the project to be set up starting with VSM, VSA. And for example, we use Kaizen Institute because why we use Kaizen Institute? Because they have some expertise worldwide. We have discussing with Kaizen Institute and they don't put in place a new tools. They know very well, for example, Delpharm, and they use exactly the same vocabulary and the same board and the same mindset. And for me, it is important not to use a lot of consultant, choose the good consultant, maybe the good company. You have a lot of consultant or a lot of good company, but adapted to our DNA. And for me, it is important. And above all, to identify, I will discuss the gain saving of each site. The project will start with the training of the teams because it is essential that it is not consultant who does it, but not the teams. The consultant is responsible for the method. Increasing the skill of team is essential but difficult. But the goal is for the supervisor to take care of the site himself with his team. This requires time, training, and ongoing coaching from the continuous improvement manager. And this is so difficult because the first level, maybe manager or maybe engineer, maybe is not so difficult, but the second level is not so easy because, for example, by Delpharm, the level in terms of continuous improvement is not very high because in the past they don't use continuous improvement tools. And today it is the cross of Delpharm excellence system problems. We have tools, we have maybe some good plans, but in terms of training, supervisor or maybe operator, it is a little bit difficult. First things because we don't have a training school, we don't have a specific black belt, green belt evaluation, and the question mark today is how to will accelerate the training. It is today the situation of Delpharm.
Yes. Okay. Okay. I can understand that. But if I understand you correctly, also what you're saying is you only brought in the third party experience when the standard and the language had been established for Delpharm. So there was a foundation and you didn't start from day one with outside competences, right?
Yes, right.
Right. So there is a foundation, there is a DES standard, and the consultants, need to work inside that standard so that it remains always very transparent for the supervisors, for the engineers, that it is Delpharm and that they own it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. That's very clear. So, if there's just one tool that you were allowed to choose to deliver business impact, which one would you choose?
My favorite tools is value stream mapping, material affirmation, flow analysis, because but for example, by Delpharm, in the past, nobody was convinced. Everybody speak about, when I explain, his patient, his customer, is OTIF. Every time is OTIF. But OTIF, why we have a bad OTIF? Not only because we have a bad delivery. Why we have a bad delivery? Because maybe we have bad results in terms of OE and so on. So, but if the first tools is value stream mapping, because you have the flow, you can identify the opportunity, you can identify the saving, hard saving, soft saving, and you have a portfolio in terms of workshop for the next fiscal year. And for me, it is important. But both the second tools is solving problem, because solving problem maybe is not only one tools, but maybe both, because solving problem, a lot of time we have a problem, but we have a solution immediately, and we don't kill. Yes, and we don't kill the problem. And for me, it's important. Okay, in parallel, you have VSM, because VSM per family is mandatory for me, but solving problem in terms of training, in terms of utilization, it's important to use PDCA, 5S, Ishikawa, and so on. And the level, a lot of time, same in automotive, is very poor, my point of view, because we don't have really good solving problem tools. And by Delpharm, we have defined 6 steps. It is not AD come from Renault, or maybe PDCA is not a part of DMIC, but it is a mix between automotive and pharmaceutical industry, because we use, is not, it is a Kettner-Trego tools. And for me, if you use correctly 6-step tools, you are sure you kill the problem.
Yes, but it is a problem that most organizations have, to help the people find real root causes, and use data to prove the real root cause, because that's the only way you'll kill the problem eventually, if you first of all understand the problem correctly. But it's always a challenge to find that, to also find the time to find the root cause, right?
Yes, right. For example, by Delpharm, you have every day you have 1 hour to have some time to dedicated to solving problem. 1 hour per day.
Every day. Okay.
Every day.
That
We
adds up
use
to
it.
a lot.
Yes, we use it and we don't use it, but in agenda, between 11 to 12, you have 1 hour to maybe you have a short meeting about solving problem. But it's important. The difficulties is to use for solving problems the right tool, because we have DMIC for Six Sigma. We have 6 steps, maybe because maybe AD and so on. We have PDCA. We have A3, but A3 it is a summary of solving problem. And we have the basic is 5Y and so on. And it is important to use the right tools for the problem. A lot of time we use big tools, and it is so difficult for all people. But a lot of time, if you use correctly Ishikawa, or maybe 5Y, you can solve quickly these problems. And the difficulties is, okay, you adapt and you train and you use the right tools. It is a difficulties.
Yes, I agree. It seems like there's problem solving as one tool, but it's not so, right? Okay, excellent. All right. So Jean-Christophe, thank you for these insights that you've shared with us about CI in Delpharm. Has been most interesting. What I'd like to do now, as we head towards the end of our session together, is to give you some outside questions. So for the first one is, what do you do to keep your body and your mind fit and sharp?
Good question. For my body, it is of course to do sport. at least once a week, maybe running, skiing, windsurfing, and so on, but not windsurfing in Paris right now, but during my vacation, you are sure. For the mint, it is this saying that every day has little to learn something, because, okay, and even in its own field, it is important for me. Okay, every time the day is another day, and every time you can learn, and you can, for example, every time this, it is not only for the businesses, it is for the life, it is for today, for tomorrow, and for me it's important. Okay, you can learn every time.
Yes, absolutely. And then do you have a favorite business book?
Toyota Way, sure.
Yeah,
But it is
yeah,
the past.
yeah.
But another favorite is The Factory of Despair. Is in French, Désespoir de l'usine du désespoir de Satoshi Kamatra. It is in English, The Factory of Despair. It is translated in French. Is this book? Okay, this guy was in Toyota on the difficulties, because every time we think Toyota is the best organization and so on, but the book is right is 1973, and it is very interesting because it is a history of the Japanese worker, and it is so difficult in Japan. Every guy thinks in Japan, okay, good organization and so on, but it is not the case. On the last one, maybe is a French book is L'éveil d'un empire, is the same thing, is a Toyota. Xavier Chauvin, this books is 2010. Okay, it's 3 books, but his industry is automotive industry.
Automotive industry. Okay, all about the business. Thank you.
Mm.
So we're in a podcast now. Do you listen to podcasts? Do you have a favorite podcast that you regularly listen to?
Yes, for sport and travel, for example, I like Fabrice Dubesset. It is maybe he travel a lot worldwide, and for me it is very interesting because I like travel. I like discover countries because okay, I travel a lot, but for example, Australia, I don't know Australia. Okay, and for me it is interesting to discover some other country, other mentalities, and I am very interesting in terms of new country.
Yes, yes, and that's a good way to learn about a new country when you're visiting it. And what would you like to see as our next podcast guest, and why?
Good question. I don't know. I don't know. Next postcard. For me, I don't have an answer about this.
Oh, no secret hero you would like to speak on CI?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, last question, or rather an opportunity. You can take this opportunity, if you like, to address our audience directly with a question, or with a challenge, or with a suggestion, anything that our audience can help you with.
Yes, important message to convey is that continuous improvement must be carried and positioned at the highest level of the company. The mistake that is made is to think that once in place, it is no longer necessary to have a position on the executive committees. This is how many companies have lost over the years all the effort that had been made in implement continuous improvement. And for me, I have a lot of I know a lot of situation. Maybe the continuous improvement, when we start to put in place, it is at the good level, at the right level with the CEO. But after, maybe the CEO, maybe the management can be changed, and continuous improvement are not at the right place. You know, you have some in French is a millefeuille. You have a piece of cake. You have a millefeuille, and the continuous improvement is not in the middle of the millefeuille, not at the top of the millefeuille. And for me, this fault is a lot of time. It is the case in automotive product, and I hope by Delpharm in the future they don't copy paste some big companies.
Remain true to what works for them and what works for the patients and what works for the business, right?
Yes, right.
Yes, okay. All right. So Jean-Christophe, thank you so much for your time today. It was lovely chatting to you and extremely interesting. So thank you again and have a nice
Thank you, Maureen. And maybe see you next time, maybe in
Yes.
Zurich.
Shortly again. I hope so,
Yes.
indeed. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye.